Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session on sustainable engineering. My name is Cynthia Wu. I'm a product manager at Google Cloud, and I'm really excited to be joined by Antoine Castex from LOreal, who will share how LOreal treats sustainability as a core component of their software engineering practices. In today's session, we will have 3 parts. In the first section, we'll talk about what is sustainable engineering and why it's important. After you learn about the what and the why, we'll talk about the how. So section 2, we'll talk about how Google's toolings will help you measure and reduce your carbon footprint on Google Cloud. And lastly, we'll hear from LOreal on how they have implemented carbon-aware and sustainable engineering practices. So first, on the what and why. Antoine.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very happy to be there with you today. My name is Antoine. I am the data architect for LOreal. I'm happy to see that there is many people that are interested into that topic, which is not so new, finally. But before jumping into the session, I would like to be sure you know why we are all together here today. So for that, with Cynthia, we choose a finally very basic slide to remind you that the technology is here, and it will be more and more present in our life in the near future. But that means this technology comes with needs coming from the customer, coming from you, a consumer, coming from finally everyone. So this requirement has a cost, and we have to keep that in mind that the digital services that we will create in the future has to be aligned with this idea. My example of today, and this is probably the example of most all of the session, we will not discuss too much about GenAI today, but is in almost all the sessions of this conference, there is a massive adoption, and more is coming, and generally speaking about machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we must be mindful of what we really need finally. But I think now we know why we are all here together. Cynthia, can you let us know what Google is doing for us?
As a technology company, Google deeply recognizes the environmental impact of technology, and we have long been committed to sustainability. We've worked to make Google data centers some of the most sustainable and most efficient in the world. We were the first company of our size to achieve carbon neutrality in 2007, and in 2017, we've matched 100% of our global electricity consumption with renewable energy on an annual and global basis. But we're not stopping here. We've made an even more ambitious goal to achieve 24/7 carbon-free energy by 2030. This means at every hour and every location where we operate at 2030, we aim to power all of our services through renewable energy. This means from today's renewable energy matching on an annual basis, we are pushing ourselves, and we're hoping the world can join us to think about energy and electricity consumption on an hourly basis. And this is a big step forward. While this sounds far away, 2030 is only 6 years away from now. So when you use Google, know that we're really hard at work to make your workloads and all of Google's services more environmentally sustainable. So by default, you are on the sustainability journey with us as a Google Cloud customer. So you might ask, Google Cloud is doing so much already. What do I have to do? Can I just sit back and ride along with Google? Not quite. This is why we want to introduce this concept of shared responsibility. You've probably heard of this term from cloud security context, right? This is similar in sustainability land. So for Google, as the infrastructure provider, we optimize our resource intensity and efficiency, and we also provide you, the customers, with impact and usage measurements, as well as different design options for your architecture. And as a Google Cloud user, you can do more by analyzing and measure your cloud carbon footprint and choosing to optimize based on the options we provide to you. So both the provider, Google Cloud, and you, the users, have a part to play here. And this is why we want to introduce you to the Green Ops approach. It has a goal to provide every IT expert, all of you sitting here, with the tools and approaches to build and run in cloud with sustainability in your mind. This framework starts with understanding what drives your emissions and continues with the ability to measure and track those emissions. And lastly, you can implement the right strategies to reduce your emissions and adopt a more sustainable architecture. And once you see the result of your optimization exercises, you can iterate and apply more. So before we get into exactly how you do this, I will let Antoine first share why L'Oreal, a cosmetics company, is very passionate about this very topic.
Thank you. This question is interesting because I think you are not totally aware, and you are asking yourself about why L'Oreal is in front of you today for a session regarding sustainability. I will explain that into the next slide, and you will understand, trust me. But before that, I have to highlight some of the key figures of the company, which is basically what we call the marketing slide. I'm sure you know that we are the #1 cosmetic company in the world with 41 billion of revenue, and we are close to 90,000 employees all over the world. But the most important fact in that slide you have to remember is last year we sold close to 7 billion products, which means almost 1 product per human on this planet. And at the opposite, by the same time, we are also the 4th largest advertisers in the world, which means that digital is almost everywhere within the company now. So at this scale, we know and we can and we must make a difference on the environmental impact we will have in the future. This slide is probably my best slide of today. I'm sure you will love because it's so simple, and it's come from my CEO, which has said that in sustainability there is no concern. Whatever you are coming from the cosmetic market, the automotive, or something else, everybody is concerned. Our sustainable journey started very long time ago in 1979, when IT was almost nothing, with our initial businesses, which is the hair color. And we started with research and development to create more efficient products with less chemicals and use less raw materials in the formula, switching to having some KPI and measure to target to achieve in terms of emissions generated by our factory. But finally, what we discover is that the production of these 7 billion products has a cost, for sure. And even if L'Oreal has one of the best factories in the world, trust me, the digital services that we create to sell this product has a big emission. And this emission represents 4 times the production of the items. You have the digital services, and you have the production of the items. So I think you will agree with me that it's huge and it's crazy. So now I'm sure you understand why I'm here today. So Cynthia, can you let us know about the capabilities that Google Cloud provides for a company like L'Oreal to reduce my footprint?
Well, that's some really astounding stats, right? So for a bottle of shampoo I buy from L'Oreal, the emissions from selling the shampoo digitally is 4 times of the emissions from producing that bottle of the shampoo. And this is a really powerful insight that led L'Oreal to really focus on making their engineering practice sustainable. And this powerful insight, probably, Antoine, you wouldn't be able to get if you didn't have robust data and measurement, right?
Yeah.
So in this section, we'll talk about how Google's tooling, like Antoine has been using, can help you get such insights. First, the Google Cloud Carbon Footprint Tool. It is a tool in Cloud Console. You can see /carbon in the console. It's very easy to get to. It helps you measure, track your cloud emissions, and we also give you the insight on where to focus when you want to optimize. We offer granular breakdown of the emissions data by 3 scopes, as well as by the Google Cloud Service, the project, and GCP region. You can dive deeper into this data through exporting into BigQuery and customize your analysis and find even more fine-grained insights through your custom analysis through our integration with Looker and Google Sheets. Our methodology uses granular inputs based on your usage and it has been reviewed according to the greenhouse gas protocol. And there's one thing I want to call out. While in most cases, your bill and your carbon footprint match or are pretty much in sync because it is based on your usage of Google Cloud, they're not always in sync. For example, you might get a discount on your bill for your usage on Google Cloud, but your carbon, the environmental impact will not get a discount. Now that you have measured and understood the carbon footprint on Google Cloud, we also provide you with a suite of tools that can help you reduce your emissions. First, on the low carbon region signals. It shows you which regions are relatively low carbon when you pick a region for your, for example, virtual machine, meaning that these regions are powered more by carbon-free sources such as solar and wind power. Second, we have the region picker, which helps you pick the best region based on multiple considerations. In addition to sustainability, there's price, latency, and other performance metrics, and this tool will help you with that. The third tool is the Active Assist, which is a machine learning-based recommendations engine that helps you identify idle projects or resources so that you can shut them down to save you both carbon and cost. And lastly, the low carbon organization policy. This can help you restrict your development work to some predefined low carbon regions so that when your engineers are working, they don't have to constantly think about this, and this will be done to them by default. In addition to that, I'm really excited to announce 2 new features that we have recently launched. One is, in addition to the existing location-based emissions metric for Scope 2 emissions, we have also launched the market-based emissions metric. For those of you who are not familiar with those terminologies, let me give you a quick intro into the carbon accounting concepts. So according to the greenhouse gas protocol, an organization's emissions can be broken down into 3 scopes. In Google Cloud Carbon Footprint, we allocate Google Cloud's footprint to each one of your usage, based on your billing account and based on your usage. Scope 1, it's the direct emissions. In the context of a Google data center, it could include the on-site diesel backup generators emissions. And we'll skip Scope 2 for now and go to Scope 3. So Scope 3 is the emissions associated with producing the servers and the racks in our data centers, as well as constructing our data centers. So they are pretty much the emissions from our suppliers, but that's part of the Scope 3 emissions. So now on Scope 2 emissions. Scope 2 means the emissions from electricity usage. And for Google Cloud, this is the electricity that powers all of your workloads in our data centers. It can be calculated using 2 different methods, location-based and market-based. The location-based method reflects the electricity usage from the physical power grids where our data centers are located. In our methodology, location-based emissions use more granular and hourly emissions factors. Location-based emissions directly ties to the physical consumption, and it can be useful for you to track behavioral changes when you optimize your cloud architecture. Market-based emissions is another method. It incorporates not only the emissions coming from the power grid, but also the additional renewable energy purchases that Google makes. So market-based represents the net emissions after our renewable energy purchases. It can be a suitable option for your corporate reporting. Interestingly, many other cloud service providers provide only the market-based emissions. If you go into their, try to find your emissions with the other cloud providers. And market-based emissions, as we talked about, tend to be a lower number. However, at Google Cloud, we want to provide you with greater transparency, not just a metric that looks lower. So by offering location-based, in addition to market-based, we give you ability to make better decisions and track behavioral changes on a more granular level. So coming back to these new features, we understand that location-based, market-based, these concepts might be still new to you. and you might still have questions. Don't worry, we have Gemini chat assistant to help answer your questions. And now let me get into a quick live demo to show you how you can use the carbon footprint tool. Great. So I am on the Google Cloud Carbon Footprint tool. You can find it by searching for carbon footprint in the search bar or through the left navigation. Here, you can see it's a per billing account report. And we have two tabs here, one on location-based emissions and a newly launched market-based emissions tab to help you understand the differences here. In each tab, we have the yearly and monthly summary card, as well as the recommendations through our integration with the machine learning-based active assist on unattended project recommenders to help you reduce the carbon emissions. We also have granular breakdown charts to help you understand where your emissions are mostly coming from by Google Cloud region, like which data center do you have the most usage and most carbon footprint from, as well as which projects are generating most emissions, and also the products, Kubernetes engine, compute engine, and so on. Going back to the market-based emissions, similar view, a summary card with breakdowns here. You can export your data to BigQuery to get all of the data, granular data behind these dashboards so you can customize your analysis. And if you're still confused about market-based emissions and location-based emissions and how we estimated the data that you see on here, we have made a quick 90-second video for you to get familiar with those concepts. Still have questions? You can open Gemini, and Gemini is here to help answer your questions regarding explain the difference between the metrics or how to use this tool. That's the end of my demo. And now, let's learn from L'Oreal on how they use and integrate these tools that we presented just now and how they make them into their day-to-day practice.
Thank you. So back to our L'Oreal Sustainable Journey, I will deep dive about all the IT action we have done regarding the feature Cynthia mentioned. But first, again, some small context to let you know. You remember what I told you about the digital footprint that we have, and it comes from now the beauty tech entity, which I belong to, which now is containing more than 2,000 people that are addressing new consumer realities and needs with the most efficient, powerful technology. I will give you 2 examples for that, and after I will show you what are the IT action we do for this. So because the world is moving fast and because the consumer needs to have news and different interaction with a brand than in the past, with a more personalized, inclusive, and of course sustainable experience, we create now also tools like the shower heads that is behind me for hairdresser to save close to 69% of water compared to a traditional one, which is a shift for a company like us. And on totally the other way, on a digital way, this year we announced at the CES during the keynote by our CEO what we call the Beauty Genius Assistant. It will be officially launched in the US market in the coming week. It will be on your smartphone, and it will be here to analyze your skin, based on your need, propose you a daily routine for you. So you have now a full picture of from where we are and where we go. So let me tell you now how we are doing that. We have divided that in 4 pillars. The first one is what we call the foundation. You would like to move to cloud. We have almost achieved our full migration to the cloud, but I just would like to remind you the biggest reasons of that is the flexibility. With Cynthia, we choose this picture to show you that most of the time, you would like to be sure, and maybe every time, you are not using a Formula One, for example, on a daily basis. You just would like to use what you need and not much more for your money, for the efficiency, and now also for the footprint that it's create. So using Google Cloud Data Center, by saying you would like to move to this cloud, lets you benefit all the efficiencies of this data center and with all the technologies and features that Cynthia mentioned. So you have nothing to do here. The second pillar, now you move, you have to be able to measure and identify improvements area. So as Cynthia mentioned, we export the data into BigQuery, but not only the data coming from Google, because we are multi-cloud, we have many other partners. So we feed that, all of this data into our dashboard that let us measure, compare, and analyze, and also detect bad operation, mistake, failure, that creates a footprint that we don't really need. The third pillar is about how you configure your cloud. And for that, I am sorry to let you know that you have also your role to play. As Cynthia mentioned, this is a shared responsibility model you have to know, depending the use case, of course, and the resource you will deploy. But everybody has his role to play here. Even if Google is great, you also have to be great, and you can. One example for this is how we configure the usage of the cloud. And for that, we adopt a purpose 4 years ago when we started, which is serverless or nothing. Of course, there is some small exception because the world is not perfect. But many times, and as much as we can, we rely mostly on BigQuery, Cloud Function, Cloud Run, services that are managed services. Because now you know we are not a software company. We would like to have scalability when the demand is here. But more important than that, we would like to be sure it's scaled down to 0. When nobody uses it, nobody pays, and there is no consumption. Another example related to what Cynthia mentioned is plan. Where do you plan to deploy your resource finally? Depending the laws and regulation of your use case, depending the pricing model, because some region can be different, but also depending the performance. And now, also regarding the efficiency of the different data centers. Again, it's up to you to decide for that. Another example, different, is the developer, which is not the most known example for sustainable contribution. We decided to stop the fight, I would say, or the run against my developer would like to have the latest laptop at the moment because they are convinced that they will create a best digital services if they have the latest laptop. So you have to buy and renew very often this laptop. For what? You are not sure it's very efficient and needs. So we switched that to Cloud Workstation, which is a container-based solution provided by Google, which means now the developer only develop through the browser. So in Chrome, it does not require you to have a very high CPU, a big amount of RAM. So you can deploy anywhere, at any time, and with almost any devices. You also probably heard that I mentioned the word data so much time. And if you would like, I can spend 5 or 6 hours to explain you our data story, but I'm not sure it's the topic of the day. But long story short, I pick up and choose some of the examples because there is many more. And the best one is a common languages that we have adopted. To be sure, everybody speaks the same languages because L'Oreal is a worldwide company. And we would like to be sure nobody is trying to reinvent the wheels. Let's say we aggregate, we migrate, we clean, we prepare some data in a specific part of the world. We would like to be sure the other team in another part is not doing the same for nothing. We would like to avoid duplication and copies of the data. So this is very important globally for the performance of your data platform, but at the end, also for the footprint that it generates. The last pillar is about how you empower the people. And I am sure Cynthia has some example to share with us.
So what Antoine had shared just now wouldn't really be effective at L'Oreal if he was the only person at L'Oreal doing it. It really requires a team and a lot of people who all care about this and then institutionalize this to make this, to build this into the day-to-day engineering practices. And we believe this is really like a mindset shift to think about sustainability as a top-level consideration when you set up and run your cloud workloads. So these are some of the considerations that I'm pretty sure you're familiar with. When you run and set up your workloads in cloud, you think about the cost, latency, performance, regulation, efficiency, right? All of these. And here, we want to propose that sustainability should be another factor here. And sustainability also isn't always just acting alone. For example, when Antoine shared, when you remove unnecessary resources, you not only reduce cost, but also carbon, and also it helps improve your security. So there are a lot of ways that you can optimize to improve sustainability, but also other metrics that you also care about. And here I want to share an example of a customer who has used our granular data to really gamify carbon emissions tracking and reduction. So as I mentioned before, our data in the Google Cloud Carbon Footprint tool has the granularity of project level. And this customer mapped each GCP project mapped into their internal teams with the team lead's name attached to each. And the team has a monthly meeting to actually look at the dashboard of which team has reduced the most and share the best practices. So this is a really fun way to gamify and have fun with the carbon data while educating everyone and make everyone feel like they are part of this. And Antoine, what are some of the ways that L'Oreal has done here?
You give us 2 examples in Thai, and I will give you 2 of mine. The first one is what we call the Sustainable Data White Book. Finally, it's here to give the key to all of our community to consume and use the data. Referring to what I told you just before, the most efficient way, of course, following some guidelines and best practices, how you have to query some data, how you have to manipulate this data, what you do not have to do, especially regarding big data, when you would like to be sure everybody avoid to do a select star, the most known, not the most efficient query you can do on a SQL database. And to be sure, again, nobody reinvent the wheel. So as much as we can, we rely on what has already been done, so the best is for everyone, for the company at the end. But the second example is purely mine. It's the team I belong to, which is the enterprise architecture team. And design authority is something we created to assess, check, verify, and at the end, authorize or not any new use case within the company. To be sure and check the implementation is validated by L'Oreal and used the way we would like to do. There is approval from security, from privacy, from trustworthy, from architecture point of view, and also now from sustainability, which at the end gives you a green, an amber, or a red flag, following these 12 architecture principles we have adopted and we communicate on it. Cynthia, it's up to you.
All right. So in the past 30 minutes, you've learned that it is important to measure and understand your engineering workload's carbon footprint in the cloud. And also, we've shared with you some examples how you can implement the strategies to optimize. And if you want to dig more and look at whether there's specific guidance for your role or take some advice back to your team, Google has published this green software guide tailored to different roles. We also have a printout of the QR code here by the door, so you can check it out when you exit. And if some of you sitting here already uses Google Cloud Carbon Footprint, we would love your feedback if you scan this QR code so that you can be part of shaping the future of our product. And we want to end our session with this.
A simple purpose. I will not try to translate it in French because I'm sure you don't want, but just close the session and asking you if you have some question by saying everyone has a part to play in that climate solution. Thank you.
Yep.